let's get way back to our discussion here a few minutes ago of the economic stuff and just tidy that up a bit.
Yeah.
Silver, gold, precious metals, all that kind of stuff are starting to take on a life of their own separate from the markets. The markets in our entities are showing up more and more cross-linked over into the political powers, clear indications of their manipulation at the paper debt level. It does not bode well. The whatever that's going to hit in December has a huge emotive context relating to economics. And it relates to currency, how people live, food. We've seen lots of restrictions of food supplies.
Okay.
So whatever occurs in December, whether it's a global economic collapse or some other kind of an event, there will nonetheless be a global economic ripple from it that will take months to even work out. And that pretty much is a long-term, or rather short-term economic output. Now, when we do a long-term run here, we see that by still under the influence of the militancy overall metadata and the competition for resources, etc., within that we see that by 2008, we'll all be living in a different landscape entirely. Geopolitically, economically, everything. The level of changes that will hit the United States will be more severe than the emotional changes that led to or were expressed in the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917.
Holy cow. Now, I understand the emotional that you said, but what about geological? Do you see the same degree of changes from a geological point of view? In other words, physical landmass? Or
we see a lot of indications that that is indeed the case. Now, the landscape changes I'm talking about at the moment for the 2008 are more human relationship, geopolitical, economic sort of thing. But nonetheless, there are indications of large-scale Earth events over the course of the next 3 years that participate in the, I want to say, the jumbled upness of it all. Humans will be suffering their own relationship issues and working out all of those kind of things within a context of overall militancy and aggression and competition within a further context of overall continuing pan-solar system changes.
Yeah.
Not just related to Earth.
Oh, touch on that a little more now. Because that's a, let's face it, that's a very, very important topic. Getting into something like what's happening with the sun now.
Correct. We've seen many of those. We've been very accurate with that. I have to say, I mean, if I were standing up and I had the inclination, I'd buff my nails and say, we're pretty good with weather.
Yeah.
We've done very well with our weather process. And I say we, by the way, because I do have an associate who prefers to remain nameless because he thinks that I'm about to be scooped up in a net any time. And he runs all of my server stuff, taking that burden off. His background is such that he has very definite skills, but he doesn't do the interpretation very well, but he does follow up and puts it all in spreadsheets, and he gets all excited when we actually get hits that he claims.
Wow.
And he prefers to be called Igor.
Okay.
He's a great guy. I worked with him at an actual job when I was employed by people, and found him to be the most reliable of fellow and well-trained by the military in his skills.
Okay. Well, Clif, you're not a whole lot better because you made me promise never to give your name out, to anybody. So, I mean, come on. But I do understand because what you're talking about really and truly could and probably does put you at a level with a big bullseye on your back.
I believe that's the case.
Yeah.
And that's why, I'm frequently concerned for George's safety, but I believe he's removed enough that I needn't worry about that aspect of it. But bear in mind, throughout history, there's only been one problem with fortune-telling, and that's accuracy.
Yeah. Well, there's another way to look at it, and if you go back to the Bible and all the prophets, remember what happened if a prophet was wrong once.
I'm much more afraid of the modern prophets than being correct.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you stir up and you suddenly instantly stick your head up, and then you're a target.
You betcha. Now let's get into this deal a little bit about events outside of planet Earth, events that might affect us, like the sun,
Let's go all the way back to 1997 then, because I was
Okay.
looking for sun networks.
Okay.
Because that was one of the first epiphanies is, aha, people are buying sun networks because they got all excited because of this, not because it actually done anything. And that accounted for a price rise, and that was the epiphany. And so I started modeling for sun. And lo and behold, instead of getting sun networks, Stanford University Networks Computing Centers,
Yeah, right.
I ended up getting references to the sun and how people were emotionally worried about the sun in 1997. Not a lot of people,
Yeah.
nowhere near what we've got now. But it really triggered a change in my whole thinking, and I started going, pretty nut job at the time.
Okay, let's address the sun for a minute. What major events, Cliff, do you see that could happen in the next, let's say, up through 2008?
We don't have to have that good of a view that long.
Okay.
Usually what we're dealing with relative to the sun is that data set is usually 7 months or less. And so we get a view now that the things that are ongoing on the sun now we spoke about in Alta 405, I believe, or 605. Those spoke about the sun's continuing robustness and redoubling its effort to put out energy and getting all whipped up and throwing out fibers and things. We also got to the point where we saw 3 events in a single day, 3 separate flares, not a long-term continuous CME, but 3 separate flare events from 3 parts of the sun in a single day, which is yet to occur. We also see that the level of energy is supposed to rise, and so on. So the sun will not be calm and quiet. And it is a major, major, major driver. In fact,
Sure.
not the ultimate driver, but a significant local driver for events on Earth of all kinds.
Yeah, now these potential events that you see, the 3 in one day, how might that affect planet Earth?
For whatever reason, and however one wants to interpret it, some event from the sun is likely to, or will lead, direct, participate in how humans view property ownership.
Can you explain that a little more?
There is likely to be a weather event or a solar event that triggers a weather event, which in turn causes a large-scale property damage, such that people won't necessarily return to their homes, and therefore people around the globe will suddenly say, 13 million refugees, 13 million people walked away from their property and their mortgages and so on. Will it happen here next?
Wow. It could be an earthquake, could be a volcano,
I think not.
No?
I think something much more directly relatable to a solar event. In other words, we may get a huge solar flare, and it may so fry infrastructure that the electrical companies might not be back and operating for 9 months, and yet we have heat so bad that you can't live there because of no air conditioning.
Wow.
Bear in mind, in 1969, we had a solar flare that took out a big chunk of the Canadian power structure, and parts of it were not operational for 6 months because there were no switches. They had to actually build them to replace it. We're in the same state now, only it's worse. There aren't the factories to build the switches.
No, the factories are all gone.
Correct.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, okay. Do you see any other potential solar activity that could have a direct effect on us?
Yes. Solar system-wide, all kinds of stuff. Some of it that we probably shouldn't discuss. And within this, I'm sorry?
I'm just laughing at you because I'm going to find out why, but go ahead.
Well, there also is some other solar aspects of this. The major long-term indications that we have that go out to 2008 suggest that during this period of time, at least insofar as we can see 2008, and by that I mean December-ish of 2008, so really early 2009, we're going to find that the sun is not at all what the scientists have been saying for some time. This is going towards mechanics, the electrical universe expressions, and also to the idea that the understanding, the shift in consciousness and the emotional relationship between humans and the sun is going to significantly change because of solar activity. How would you feel about the sun, for instance, if every day for the next 45 days, your particular area was 110 degrees.
And that would be directly related to an activity on the sun.
Correct, because every single day we get a flare.
Yeah. What about something like a radiation coming in from the sun?
I don't have anything that shows that sort of thing, but I don't know that I would pick it up.
Okay. All
Bear
right.
in mind, we're not, psychically looking out into the future and reading time or anything.
Okay.
We're reading interpreting emotional values that come from language shifts. So usually what we're after is shifts in behavior of humans. That's really what we're seeing come through, and then we make a broader interpretation as saying, what could cause this shift?
Wow. Jeez, that's wild.